and to imply that we should just ignore the impact that Caitlin Clark had on this team, this league, this sport. Nah, it doesn't work that way.
The WNBA buzzed after Sue Bird revised her stance on Caitlin Clark, addressing racial controversies and online divisiveness.
Sue Bird calls out ESPN host for, quote, hating on WNBA playoff ratings after Caitlin Clark's exit. You say, what? Why?
Sue Bird, once a supporter of Caitlin Clark, criticized Stephen A. Smith, stating that the WNBA thrives without Clark's presence. Despite rumors of Clark moving to Europe and currently taking a break, Bird disagrees with claims that viewership numbers are soaring, calling them exaggerated and misleading.
Racism has been impacting the WNBA well before this year. This is not a new thing. Sure. This is, and in that way, I do think Caitlin's being used as a pawn. Caitlin didn't bring racism to the WNBA. This has been happening, and that I think is what's been such a shock for all of us.
Sue Bird, initially defending Caitlin Clark, seems frustrated as Clark's absence has sparked a social media uproar. Fans demand her return, with some threatening to stop watching the WNBA until she's back.
Viewership numbers with Caitlin Clark are astronomical. She is a big draw. She brings in all the things. And yes, the games where she's not playing have lower viewership. But in the WNBA playoffs are still breaking records from previous WNBA years.
Without Caitlin Clark, WNBA viewership has noticeably declined. Yet Sue Bird insists her absence won't affect the league's momentum. Every game played without Clark shows a drop in numbers, but Sue remains confident that Caitlin's time away from basketball won't cause significant long-term problems for the WNBA.
But they don't want it to grow if it's certain people at the face. And there is still this undertone of jealousy that for some reason I cannot get around calling it anything else but that, because I don't know what else it could be. I thought it was going to get better this season, but it hasn't. There are still people who seemingly, to me, feel like they just don't want Caitlin to be a part of it.
Rachel Demita pointed out that WNBA legends seem reluctant to let the sport grow with Caitlin Clark as its face. They'd prefer going back to square one rather than dealing with the competition Clark brings.
What's the problem, Sue Bird? I know that you gave her props and you acknowledged how phenomenal she was in terms of a draw. What Shannon Sharp and I were guilty of saying was that not enough folks were appreciating it.
Caitlin Clark's impact on the WNBA was game-changing, but after her playoff exit, the league felt like it lost its spark. With rumors of her moving to Europe, concerns about the WNBA's future are growing. Sue Bird, a legendary WNBA player, initially praised Clark for her potential to revolutionize women's basketball. Bird saw Clark as more than just a rookie. She believed Clark could reshape the sport entirely. However, as Clark steps away, the league faces an uncertain future. And Bird's views on the situation seem to have shifted.
What's the problem, Sue Bird? I know that you gave her props and you acknowledged how phenomenal she was in terms of a draw. What Shannon Sharp and I were guilty of saying was that not enough folks were appreciating it.
Things took an unexpected turn when Sue Bird began downplaying Caitlin Clark's impact, which confused many fans, especially considering Bird's prior praise for Clark. She claimed that Clark's presence hadn't significantly influenced WNBA viewership, suggesting the league's recent struggles were unrelated to Clark's absence. This sudden shift in Bird's stance left fans outraged and bewildered. In contrast, Stephen A. Smith has consistently championed Caitlin Clark. Known for his bold and unfiltered commentary, Smith wasted no time expressing his disappointment when Clark exited the playoffs, stating that her absence had ruined the playoff hype. His strong opinions resonated with many who believe Clark has been vital for the league's visibility and excitement. This dichotomy between Bird's comments and Smith's unwavering support highlights the ongoing debate around Clark's role in the WNBA's popularity.
Let's just say the ratings aren't the same with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever now eliminated. Game one of the Aces Liberty matchup on Sunday drew an average of 929,000 viewers. Was down nearly 50% from last Sunday's Fever Sun contest. By the way, not only was viewership down, but attendance was as well.
For Stephen A. Smith, Caitlin Clark's exit from the court symbolized the WNBA losing its biggest draw. He highlighted the significant decline in viewership since her departure, arguing that the league must recognize her importance to its success. Smith's remarks were more than just casual observations. They served as a rallying cry for the WNBA to elevate stars like Clark and maintain the league's momentum. However, Sue Bird was quick to challenge Smith's perspective. She publicly criticized him for attributing the decline in playoff viewership solely to Clark's absence, asserting that numerous factors contributed to the situation. Bird emphasized that the hype surrounding the playoffs wasn't reliant on just one player, no matter how talented. Her rebuttal sparked a passionate debate among fans and analysts alike, with opinions split down the middle. On one side was Smith, who insisted that Clark was the driving force behind playoff excitement. On the other was Bird, a legendary figure in the sport, arguing that the WNBA's legacy and appeal extended beyond any single player, even one as influential as Clark. This clash of viewpoints highlighted the complexities of athlete impact in a team-oriented league.
A lot of this noise came by people that were sitting on this network. They tried to minimize her, said, well, you giving her all this credit. What about the women that came before her? What the women came before her, what they did cannot be taken away. That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. But there was a lot of people tried to make sure they keep Caitlin Clark in her place, because what you're doing, if you give her all this shine, you minimize what they done. We saw the ratings, we saw the merchandise sales, we saw the attendance, but y'all want to make it about something else.
Sue Bird didn't just challenge Stephen A. Smith. She doubled down on her stance, insisting that Caitlin Clark's absence wasn't the primary reason for the WNBA's viewership decline. Despite ratings plummeting following Clark's exit, Bird remained firm that the downturn wasn't solely about her. This refusal to acknowledge the so-called Caitlin Clark effect frustrated many fans, especially since viewership had spiked when Clark was playing and dropped significantly when she was off the court. The numbers were clear, yet Bird stood her ground.
The ratings, I believe, 2 Sundays ago with Caitlin Clark, she drew 1.8 million viewers on an NFL Sunday. This past NFL Sunday, A'ja Wilson drew 900,000 viewers.
Bird's insistence that other factors contributed to the decline in viewership didn't resonate well with dedicated playoff fans. Many pointed out that the excitement surrounding the games had significantly waned after Clark's exit, highlighting the clear correlation between her departure and the drop in ratings. Yet, Bird remained steadfast, refusing to give Clark the credit that many believed she rightfully deserved, leading to further frustration among supporters of the star player.
Caitlin Clark has created more buzz around the basketball landscape and has actually transformed and revived a league that was the WNBA, and she is getting paid a measly $28 million.
The disconnect between Sue Bird and fans became increasingly evident as the debate over Caitlin Clark's impact continued. Bird's refusal to acknowledge Clark's influence left many feeling that the WNBA's veterans were out of touch with the league's current dynamics. Fans drawn to the WNBA by Clark's electrifying performances now felt alienated by the very legends they once admired. It was particularly troubling that Bird, who had once served as a mentor figure to younger players, was now downplaying Clark's significance. This raised questions about whether the WNBA was prepared to evolve, or if it remained stuck in the past, reluctant to fully embrace the next generation of stars. The league's hesitance to acknowledge Caitlin Clark's profound impact has been one of the most perplexing aspects of the situation. From the moment Clark entered the league, her unique talent and charisma were evident, making it clear she was a game changer. The WNBA's reluctance to recognize this has sparked confusion and disappointment among its passionate fan base.
Don't y'all want a greater profile? Don't y'all want more notoriety? Don't y'all want more hype? I understand that it's going on still without her now that she's out of the playoffs because the games have been great. But the fact of the matter is she swelled the interest in the sport.
Caitlin Clark's games attracted massive audiences. Her social media presence was unparalleled, and her ability to connect with fans distinguished her from many of her peers. Yet, despite her undeniable influence, the WNBA appeared hesitant to fully embrace the Caitlin Clark effect. Whether it stemmed from internal politics, jealousy from fellow players, or a simple refusal to acknowledge her star power. The league failed to capitalize on the wave of interest she generated. Rather than promoting Clark as the face of the WNBA, the league seemed content to let her rise independently, lacking the full backing of its promotional resources. This oversight proved costly, as viewership numbers began to plummet after Clark exited the playoffs. The WNBA's reluctance to support one of its brightest stars has raised questions about its commitment to fostering the next generation of talent and maximizing its potential audience.
Caitlin Clark effect is definitely real. I mean, we can all see that. However, experiencing it in person is totally different. I was at the Fever in Indiana game last night, and the amount of 22s that I saw on the way to the arena and inside the Capital One Arena might as well have just been a home game for Caitlin Clark. Not Indiana, Caitlin Clark. The thing is, that didn't surprise me. But what did surprise me was how packed the game was.
By failing to fully acknowledge the Caitlin Clark effect, the WNBA missed a vital opportunity to grow its audience and cement its position in the sports world. Instead, it now grapples with declining ratings, frustrated fans, and a lack of excitement surrounding its marquee events. The league's reluctance to embrace Clark's star power has left it in a precarious situation, one that may be challenging to recover from. Amidst this turmoil, Stephen A. Smith has remained one of Caitlin Clark's most vocal advocates. While some have downplayed her impact or outright dismissed her contributions, Smith has consistently highlighted what he perceives as an agenda against her. He has pointed out that the league seems to treat Clark differently than other players, noting instances of on-court targeting and a lack of off-court promotion. Smith has spoken out about how Clark has been singled out by opponents, faced excessive fouling, and received insufficient recognition compared to her peers, emphasizing the need for the league to change its approach and fully support its rising stars.
Stephen A., respectfully, with your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago if you wanted to.
All right, we gotta go.
Stephen A., I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.
Wow.
Don't do that. I'm talking to you about the power that you have.
Really
You
appreciate
missed, my girl, but you've missed a lot of episodes of First Take.
As the controversy surrounding Caitlin Clark's treatment in the WNBA intensifies, many fans are increasingly advocating for her to leave the league altogether. They argue that Clark would thrive in the EuroLeague, where she would likely receive greater respect and better financial opportunities. In Europe, supporters believe her talents would be fully appreciated, allowing her to avoid the constant targeting and mistreatment she encounters in the WNBA. This movement within Clark's fan base is growing louder by the day, with many urging her to make the transition sooner rather than later. They feel the WNBA has revealed its true colors and believe Clark would be better off playing in a league that genuinely values her skills and contributions. The call for her to explore international opportunities reflects a broader concern for how the WNBA supports its most talented players.
Could be a team overseas who would love to snatch Caitlin Clark away from us and give her a crazy offer. I mean, Ice Cube was about to give her $5 million to play in less than 10 games in the Big Three. So the money is there, and if these owners are smart with it, I could definitely see more WNBA players going overseas and possibly not returning.
The financial opportunities in Europe are a significant reason why fans want Caitlin Clark to consider leaving the WNBA. While the WNBA has struggled to fully leverage her star power, the EuroLeague could provide her with a more lucrative career. In Europe, Clark would not only earn more, but also gain the respect she deserves as one of the top players in women's basketball. Fans argue that in Europe, Clark wouldn't have to navigate the petty politics and jealousy that have overshadowed her time in the WNBA. Instead, she could concentrate on what she does best, dominating on the court and expanding her brand as one of the most exciting players in the game. This potential shift offers a promising alternative for her career trajectory.
It's been the tradition in sports when you have a star this big that people are jealous of and people are angry at.
Caitlin Clark's dominance has made her a target within the WNBA, with some legends and current players expressing a desire for her to leave the league. Rather than embracing the increased competition she brings, they believe the WNBA would be better off without her, even at the cost of sacrificing viewership. These players argue that Clark is too good, and that her presence elevates the competition to a level they'd prefer to avoid. Clark's ability to raise the level of play has positioned her as a threat to established stars who are accustomed to being the league's top performers. Instead of viewing her as a valuable asset, they perceive her as someone who disrupts the status quo. This jealousy has fostered a growing movement among some players to push Clark out of the WNBA, even if it results in a decline in fans tuning in to watch, highlighting the complex dynamics at play within the league.
I know when they got eliminated from the playoffs, the attendance dropped, the ratings dropped. If the WNBA is more, it is, and I get it. Why aren't people watching?
What's even more surprising is that some players are willing to accept lower viewership numbers if it means not having to compete against Caitlin Clark. This mindset highlights a deeper issue within the WNBA. Rather than pushing the league to grow and improve, some players prefer to see it remain stagnant to avoid the intense competition Clark brings to the court. This willingness to sacrifice viewership for less competition speaks volumes about the state of the WNBA. While the league should focus on growth and attracting new fans, some players appear more interested in preserving their own dominance, even if it undermines the league's overall success. This attitude raises questions about the WNBA's future and its commitment to fostering a competitive environment.
I feel like after the break, I still don't think she's dominating, but she's a different player than she was in the first half of the season.
Despite facing considerable opposition, Caitlin Clark's impact on the WNBA has been overwhelmingly positive. She has attracted new fans, boosted viewership, and made the game more competitive. Her ability to draw attention to women's basketball is unparalleled, positioning her as a beacon of hope for the sport's future. Clark's on-court performances have been nothing short of spectacular, and her connection with fans has solidified her status as one of the league's most popular players. However, despite her many contributions, the WNBA and some of its legends have yet to fully acknowledge her impact. Rather than celebrating her success, they seem intent on downplaying her influence. This refusal to credit Clark appropriately is not only unfair, but also detrimental to the league's growth, as it fails to recognize the potential benefits of embracing the star power she brings to the sport.
To me, Angel may have exceeded expectations, even more so than Caitlin.
Caitlin Clark's exit from the playoffs has undeniably impacted the WNBA. The league has experienced declining viewership, compounded by the reluctance of some prominent figures to acknowledge her significance. As fans advocate for her move to Europe and the league struggles to recover from her absence, it's evident that Clark's legacy will continue to influence the future of women's basketball, regardless of whether the WNBA is ready to embrace it. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe. More videos are on screen now.